I am kind of a square. There is a highlight reel of worst possible scenarios in my head that plays when I encounter most illicit drug use and pretty much any party involving a keg. The lessons of my 7th grade health class are alive and well within me. Where you see a fun night out in the town, I see alcohol poisoning and pubic lice. I am much too afraid of consequences to put myself in dangerous situations. This means that I have watched many TV shows about impulsive young people, but have rarely been one myself. Which brings me to the crux of my story, a time when I behaved like an impulsive young person. By the way, my parents are here tonight, and this is a story about the time I got really wasted. So, I'm really sorry. Let me set the scene. A mostly empty bar in Seoul, South Korea. It was 3 a.m. on a Thursday. It was December, it was snowing outside, and it was a half-mile walk to the subway. I had no idea how to navigate because English is my first and only language. I was stupidly drunk, and my tour guide that night, my friend Suyeon, was also really drunk. One of my clearest memories from that night is of a young man. I remember thinking that he was way too young to work in a bar, following me to and from the bathroom with a hose and a bucket. I had eaten a large quantity of Korean barbecue earlier in the evening, with all the fixins, 3 types of kimchi, like a quart of rice, and like 5 scallion pancakes. Korean barbecue does not mix well with a liter of vodka. And if you are listening to this young Korean man, I would like to apologize. That night was probably worse for me than it was for you. So let me step back a little and describe the context of this trip. It was winter of 2013. I had recently graduated from college and moved back in with my parents. I was unemployed, I'd been experiencing a major depressive episode for over a year. When I was in school, I at least felt compelled to attend most of my classes because my anxiety about failing these classes and therefore being a disappointment often won out over my desire to stay in bed. Now, without the structure of exams and papers, I felt like I was sinking. I found a perverse comfort in my depression, and someone once said that reaching out for help when you're depressed is like deciding to make a phone call while you're throwing up. It just doesn't make sense. You just don't think of doing it. So this was my status quo. I woke up, I hate-watched Grey's Anatomy, and I went to sleep. I was in Korea visiting my friends Grace and Suyeon. I have known both Grace and Suyeon since we were all 8 years old, but Suyeon moved back to Korea when we were 11. I hadn't seen her in over a decade. At age 11, Suyeon was skinny and shy and had a wry sense of humor that she only revealed to certain people. She was a good artist. In 4th grade, I asked her to draw a portrait of me. She did, and then she wouldn't let me see it. I managed to catch a glimpse of it right before she turned the page of her notebook. I remember being a little irritated that she was so bashful about something she was so good at. The night we lost ourselves in Seoul started out so well. We participated in a traditional Korean tea ceremony. We met up with her friend, who was nicknamed Minnie Mouse for some reason, and ate Korean barbecue, as I mentioned before. And it was just incredible that we were still friends after more than a decade. Suyeon, now 22, was the same, but also different. She still had a wry sense of humor, but she wasn't shy. She was tough and street smart and canny and hard drinking, and always had a cigarette dangling from her lips. Evidence of the way she'd grown up in this hectic megacity after being pulled out of school in 6th grade in the Valley. And so we went to the bar, just the 2 of us. This was a big mistake. You know how sometimes you're too drunk to recognize that getting drunker is a really bad idea? This is where we were at. Suyeon surprised me by buying a whole bottle of Grey Goose vodka. 1 bottle and 2 glasses. And then Suyeon started to cry. She told me things I didn't know about her life, like how she'd moved 7 times between the ages of 12 and 16, and how her classmates in middle school had refused to talk to her for a whole year. how she just stopped talking for a while, and how she decided to withdraw into herself. I just listened and drank and cried with her about the way her life had unfolded. Suyeon was drinking way faster than I was at a certain point, and at a certain point I stopped being able to understand what she was saying, and I stopped being able to stand, which was bad because that highlight reel of worst possible scenarios started playing in my head about 2 hours too late. Suyeon was beginning to be belligerent, and the people who owned the bar wanted us out because I was throwing up everywhere, and I was incapable of doing anything besides crying. I still have absolutely no idea how Suyeon's friend Minnie knew we were at this bar. I only know that she helped me and Suyeon into her car with the patient and practiced tenderness of a mother. It was obvious to me that Suyeon needed this kind of rescuing a lot. So I spent my last day in Korea sipping water, puking, and watching Sandra Bullock movies, and thinking about my friend. I saw myself in Suyeon, not in her story, but in her disregard for her own well-being and self-worth. I was scared for her, and I was scared for myself. She wanted to be lost, she wanted to forget herself, and I could relate to that feeling so much that it scared the shit out of me. When I got home from Korea, I started to make better choices. I realized that I wanted to feel better. I wanted to feel a sense of self-worth, and that was the first step. Thank you.